Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Seneca, they tell you happiness is the goal. They tell you to chase pleasure, avoid pain, and seek comfort above all else. They lie. That path leads only to weakness, to a fragile existence shattered by the first real hardship. We are not them. We understand that true strength is forged in the fires of adversity, that discipline is the architect of an unbreakable will. We build fortresses within ourselves, brick by painful brick, preparing for the inevitable battles that life throws our way. The modern world breeds softness. It offers distractions and illusions designed to keep you docile and compliant. It encourages you to blame external forces for your failures, to seek validation in the opinions of others, and to avoid any situation that might cause discomfort. This is a trap. This is how they control you. They weaken your mind, your body, your spirit until you are nothing more than a shadow of your potential. We refuse to be victims. We choose to be warriors. Building an inner fortress is not about isolating yourself from the world. It's about arming yourself against its corrupting influences. It's about cultivating a mind that is resistant to manipulation, a will that is unyielding in the face of adversity, and a spirit that is fueled by purpose, not pleasure. It's about taking radical responsibility for your life and refusing to surrender to mediocrity. It demands constant vigilance, unwavering discipline, and a brutal honesty that few are willing to embrace. Most people are content to drift through life, passively accepting whatever fate throws their way. They are like ships without rudders, tossed and turned by the currents of circumstance. They are easily swayed by emotions, easily broken by challenges, and easily defeated by their own inner demons. We, on the other hand, are building our own rudders. We are charting our own course. We are forging ourselves into instruments of our own will. The path to inner strength is not easy. It requires confronting your deepest fears, acknowledging your greatest weaknesses, and pushing yourself beyond your perceived limits. It means embracing discomfort, enduring pain, and facing the possibility of failure. But it is through these trials that we grow, that we evolve, that we become the masters of our own destiny. The pain is not a punishment. It is a teacher. Consider the illusion of safety. Modern life presents a facade of security, readily available food, climate-controlled environments, and constant entertainment. But this comfort is a cage. It dulls your instincts, weakens your resolve, and leaves you unprepared for the inevitable storms that will come. The true fortress is not built with walls of concrete, but with the steel of a disciplined mind. The concept of psychological warfare often brings to mind images of spies and secret agents, but its principles apply to every aspect of life. Your mind is a battlefield, and you are constantly engaged in a struggle against your own negative thoughts, your own self-doubt, and your own limiting beliefs. To build an inner fortress, you must learn to recognize these enemies, to understand their tactics, and to develop strategies for defeating them. One of the most insidious weapons in this internal war is self-deception. It's the tendency to rationalize your failures, to justify your weaknesses, and to cling to comfortable illusions rather than face uncomfortable truths. This is why brutal honesty is so essential. You must be willing to see yourself as you truly are, flaws and all, and to confront your shortcomings without flinching. Only then can you begin to build a solid foundation for self-improvement. Another key element of psychological warfare is the ability to control your emotions. Emotions are powerful forces, but they can also be easily manipulated. If you allow your emotions to dictate your actions, you become vulnerable to external influences. This does not mean suppressing your emotions entirely, but rather learning to observe them, to understand their origins, and to respond to them strategically, rather than react to them impulsively. The development of a strategic mindset is crucial for navigating the complexities of life and building an inner fortress. It involves analyzing situations objectively, identifying potential threats and opportunities, and developing plans for achieving your goals. It requires a willingness to think critically, to question assumptions, and to adapt to changing circumstances. It means always being one step ahead, anticipating challenges, and preparing for the unexpected. Discipline is the mortar that holds the bricks of your inner fortress together. It's the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. It's the commitment to sticking to your plans, even when faced with obstacles and temptations. It's the unwavering dedication to your goals, even when progress is slow and the rewards seem distant. Discipline is not about punishment or deprivation. It's about freedom, the freedom to choose your own path and to create your own destiny. Mastering your mind is a lifelong pursuit, a constant process of refinement and improvement. There will be setbacks, there will be challenges, there will be moments when you feel like giving up. But it is in these moments that your inner fortress is truly tested. It is in these moments that you have the opportunity to grow stronger, to become more resilient, and to solidify your foundation. The journey is not easy, but the rewards are immeasurable. The world will try to break you. It will throw obstacles in your path, test your resolve, and exploit your weaknesses. But if you have built your inner fortress with diligence and discipline, you will not be broken. You will bend, but you will not break. You will adapt, but you will not surrender. You will endure, and you will ultimately prevail. So let them chase happiness. Let them seek comfort. Let them wallow in their weakness. We will continue to build our fortresses, to sharpen our minds, and to prepare for the battles ahead. For we know that true strength lies not in avoiding pain, but in conquering it, and that the greatest victory of all is the victory over ourselves. The mind is a battlefield. Every day, unseen skirmishes erupt within us. The forces of discipline clash against the temptations of comfort. The strategic mind plans its advance, while the undisciplined mind seeks immediate gratification. Winning this daily war is not about grand, sweeping victories, but about consistent, small acts of self-mastery. It's about choosing the difficult path when the easy one beckons. It's about recognizing the subtle sabotage of procrastination and resisting the allure of instant pleasure. This inner conflict is not a sign of weakness. It's the very arena where strength is forged. By confronting these internal battles head-on, we build the resilience necessary to withstand the external pressures of the world. We learn to identify and neutralize the cognitive distortions that cloud our judgment and weaken our resolve. We transform our minds from chaotic battlegrounds into well-defended fortresses, capable of withstanding any siege. The psychology of an inner fortress extends beyond mere willpower. It's about understanding the architecture of your own mind, identifying its vulnerabilities, and strategically reinforcing them. This requires a deep dive into your subconscious beliefs, the hidden narratives that shape your thoughts and actions. Are you driven by a fear of failure? Do you crave the approval of others? Are you trapped in a cycle of self-sabotage? Unearthing these limiting beliefs is the first step towards dismantling them. Once exposed, these subconscious programs can be rewritten, replaced with empowering beliefs that support your goals and reinforce your resilience. This process is not a quick fix, but a continuous act of self-excavation and reconstruction. It demands brutal honesty, unflinching self-awareness, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about yourself. Building an inner fortress also requires mastering the art of mental framing. The way you perceive a situation directly impacts your response to it. A challenge viewed as an insurmountable obstacle becomes a learning opportunity when reframed as a test of resilience. A setback interpreted as a personal failure can be transformed into valuable data for future improvement. The ability to consciously reframe your experiences is a powerful tool for maintaining a positive mental state, even in the face of adversity. It allows you to extract meaning and purpose from even the most difficult circumstances, turning setbacks into stepping stones on the path to self-mastery. This mental agility is not about denying reality, but about choosing to interpret it in a way that empowers you and strengthens your resolve. Furthermore, psychological warfare starts within. The most formidable enemy you will ever face is the one that resides within your own mind. Doubt, fear, and self-criticism can be more debilitating than any external threat. To conquer these internal adversaries, you must cultivate a strong inner voice, a voice of reason and encouragement that can drown out the negativity. This requires developing a consistent practice of self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a close friend. It also involves learning to recognize and challenge the negative self-talk that erodes your confidence and undermines your efforts. By consciously cultivating a positive and supportive inner dialogue, you create a mental environment that fosters resilience, promotes growth, and strengthens your inner fortress against the attacks of self-doubt. The strategic mindset within this inner fortress is about planning, executing, and adapting. It's about setting clear goals, developing a concrete plan of action, and consistently monitoring your progress. But it's also about being flexible and adaptable, willing to adjust your strategy as circumstances change. This requires a deep understanding of your own strengths and weaknesses, as well as a realistic assessment of the external environment. The strategic mind anticipates obstacles, develops contingency plans, and maintains a clear vision of the ultimate objective. It's about making calculated risks, learning from mistakes, and constantly refining your approach based on new information. This proactive and adaptive mindset is essential for navigating the complexities of life and achieving long-term success. It's the compass that guides you through the turbulent waters of uncertainty, ensuring that you stay on course towards your desired destination. The commitment to building an inner fortress is not a passive endeavor. It requires active participation, consistent effort, and a relentless pursuit of self-improvement. It's a daily practice of mental discipline, emotional regulation, and strategic thinking. It's about consciously choosing to invest in your own mental well-being, prioritizing personal growth over instant gratification. It's about cultivating a mindset of continuous learning, seeking out new knowledge and skills that can strengthen your inner defenses. This commitment is not about achieving perfection, but about striving for progress, constantly pushing yourself to become a stronger, more resilient, and more capable version of yourself. It's about embracing the challenges and setbacks as opportunities for growth, transforming adversity into advantage, and emerging from every battle stronger and more prepared than before. True mastery of the mind is the ultimate act of self-defense. It's about creating a sanctuary within yourself, a place of inner peace and unwavering resolve that cannot be penetrated by the negativity and chaos of the outside world. This inner fortress is not a static structure, but a dynamic and evolving system, constantly adapting and strengthening to meet the ever-changing challenges of life. It is a testament to your commitment to self-mastery, a reflection of your unwavering belief in your own potential, and it is the foundation upon which you will build a life of purpose, resilience, and enduring fulfillment. It is the ultimate weapon against the storms of life. Consider the story of James Stockdale, an American naval officer during the Vietnam War. He was captured and held as a prisoner of war for over 7 years in the infamous Hanoi Hilton. Stockdale was the highest-ranking officer held there, making him a natural leader among his fellow prisoners. The conditions were brutal: constant torture, starvation, isolation, and the ever-present threat of death. Many prisoners succumbed to despair, losing hope and ultimately their will to live. Some cracked under the pressure, betraying their comrades to gain temporary relief from their suffering. Others simply gave up, fading into a state of apathy and resignation. But Stockdale refused to break. He understood that his captors aimed not only to inflict physical pain, but also to shatter their minds and spirits. They wanted to demoralize the prisoners, to make them believe that resistance was futile and that their situation was hopeless. Stockdale knew that if he allowed them to succeed, they would win. He recognized that his primary duty was to preserve the morale and cohesion of the other prisoners, to maintain their faith in eventual liberation. He established a code of conduct, a set of rules that governed how the prisoners would interact with their captors and with each other. These rules were designed to prevent the prisoners from being exploited, to maintain their dignity, and to preserve their sense of unity. For example, He forbade prisoners from showing any signs of weakness or despair in front of their captors. He encouraged them to communicate with each other using secret codes and signals to maintain a sense of connection and solidarity. He even implemented a system of punishments for those who violated the code, ensuring that everyone understood the importance of discipline and adherence to the rules. He understood that even small acts of defiance could have a profound impact on the morale of the prisoners, and that maintaining a sense of order and purpose was essential for their survival. Stockdale also focused on managing the prisoners' expectations. He knew that unrealistic optimism could be just as damaging as despair. So, he preached a philosophy of realistic hope, emphasizing the importance of acknowledging the harsh realities of their situation while still maintaining faith in the future. He told them that they would eventually be freed, but he didn't give them any false promises about when that would happen. He understood that setting specific dates would only lead to disappointment and disillusionment when those dates inevitably passed. Instead, he encouraged them to focus on the present moment, on finding ways to survive each day, and to maintain their mental and physical strength. He instilled in them the belief that they could endure whatever their captors threw at them, and that they would emerge from this ordeal stronger and more resilient than before. This was not blind faith, but a calculated strategy to maintain hope without succumbing to the corrosive effects of unrealistic expectations. Stockdale endured immense suffering during his imprisonment. He was repeatedly tortured, placed in solitary confinement for extended periods, and deprived of basic necessities. He witnessed the deaths of fellow prisoners and was constantly exposed to the brutality and inhumanity of his captors. But through it all, he maintained his mental fortitude. He used his mind as a weapon, employing strategies of mental discipline and emotional regulation to cope with the horrific conditions. He practiced mindfulness, focusing on the present moment and refusing to dwell on the past or worry about the future. He visualized himself being freed, imagining the day when he would return home to his family. He also found ways to find meaning and purpose in his suffering, viewing his imprisonment as a test of his character and an opportunity to develop his mental and spiritual strength. He refused to let his captors break him, and he emerged from his ordeal a stronger and more resilient man. His actions demonstrate the power of the human mind to overcome even the most extreme adversity. It illustrates the importance of developing a strong inner fortress, a mental sanctuary that can withstand the storms of life. Stockdale's experience is a testament to the power of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, we have the capacity to find hope, meaning, and resilience within ourselves. It shows that the mind, when properly trained and disciplined, can be the ultimate weapon against despair and the foundation for enduring strength. The trap is believing resilience is some innate quality, a gift bestowed upon a chosen few. It's not. It's a muscle forged in the fire of deliberate hardship. The weak avoid the forge. They seek comfort, distraction, anything to numb the sting of reality. They build walls of excuses, justifying their stagnation, clinging to the illusion of safety. They mistake comfort for strength and pleasure for happiness. They are addicts, hooked on the dopamine drip of instant gratification, forever chasing the next fleeting high. They outsource their self-worth to external validation, becoming slaves to the opinions of others. Their identities are fragile, built on shifting sands of social media likes and fleeting trends. When the inevitable storm arrives, their flimsy defenses crumble, leaving them exposed and vulnerable. They are swept away by the tide of adversity, drowning in self-pity and despair. They blame their failures on external factors, refusing to take responsibility for their own lives. They are victims, not warriors. They are sheep, not wolves. They are prisoners of their own minds, trapped within the walls of their self-imposed limitations. They lack the discipline to confront their inner demons, to face their fears, to push themselves beyond their comfort zones. They are afraid of pain, of failure, of discomfort. They believe that suffering is something to be avoided at all costs, not something to be embraced as an opportunity for growth. They are blind to the truth that the greatest transformations occur in the crucible of adversity. They remain stagnant, unfulfilled, and ultimately weak. They have not built the inner fortress, and therefore they are easily conquered by the outside world. Their minds are not weapons, but open doors. The weak also fail to understand the nature of true strength. They believe it is about brute force, physical dominance, or material wealth. They chase power through external means, seeking to control others and manipulate their environment. They are driven by ego, by the need to feel superior, by the desire to be admired. They mistake arrogance for confidence and aggression for assertiveness. They are bullies, not leaders. They are takers, not givers. They are parasites, not contributors. Their strength is superficial, a facade built on insecurity and fear. When confronted with true adversity, their fragile egos shatter. They crumble under pressure, revealing their true weakness. They lack the inner resources to cope with setbacks, to learn from their mistakes, to adapt to changing circumstances. They are rigid, inflexible, and ultimately unsustainable. They have not cultivated the inner resilience that is necessary to navigate the complexities of life. They are like trees with shallow roots, easily uprooted by the first strong wind. They fall prey to their own insecurities, their own fears, their own self-doubt. They are their own worst enemies, sabotaging their own success. They are slaves to their own ego, trapped in a cycle of self-destruction. They will never build a fortress of strength. Another trap is the illusion of control. The weak cling to the belief that they can control everything in their lives, that they can predict the future, that they can avoid all risks. They are obsessed with planning, with organizing, with micromanaging every detail. They are terrified of uncertainty, of the unknown, of anything that disrupts their carefully constructed world. They become paralyzed by analysis, unable to make decisions, afraid of making mistakes. They miss opportunities because they are too busy trying to anticipate every possible outcome. They are like generals who plan for every battle except the one they are actually fighting. They are unprepared for the unexpected, for the curveballs that life inevitably throws their way. They become brittle, inflexible, unable to adapt to changing circumstances. When things don't go according to plan, they become frustrated, angry, and overwhelmed. They blame others for their failures, refusing to take responsibility for their own actions. They are victims of their own perfectionism, trapped in a cycle of anxiety and control. They do not understand that true strength lies in embracing uncertainty, in accepting the impermanence of all things, in learning to adapt to whatever life throws their way. The fortress is not built on control, but on adaptability. The final trap is the failure to cultivate self-awareness. The weak are blind to their own flaws, their own weaknesses, their own limitations. They are unable to see themselves objectively, to recognize their own biases, to understand their own motivations. They live in a state of denial, projecting their insecurities onto others, blaming external factors for their own failures. They are unable to learn from their mistakes because they refuse to acknowledge them in the first place. They are like drivers who are constantly looking in the rearview mirror, unable to see the road ahead. They are doomed to repeat the same patterns, to make the same mistakes, to remain stuck in the same cycle of self-destruction. They lack the introspection, the self-reflection, the honest self-assessment that is necessary for personal growth. They are afraid to confront their inner demons, to face their fears, to acknowledge their own shortcomings. They are trapped in a prison of their own making, unable to escape because they are unaware of their own captivity. True strength begins with self-awareness, with the willingness to confront one's own darkness, to acknowledge one's own weaknesses, to embrace one's own imperfections. This is the foundation upon which the inner fortress is built. Without it, there is only delusion. The path to building this inner fortress demands a constant campaign of psychological warfare, not against others, but against the self. It requires a Machiavellian approach to one's own character, a ruthless examination of motives, desires, and fears. Consider the prince, not as a ruler of others, but as the ruler of his own inner kingdom. He must be cunning, strategic, and utterly devoid of sentimentality when it comes to dismantling his own weaknesses. Sentimentality is the great deceiver, the siren song that lures the mind to the rocks of complacency. It whispers that you are good enough, that your flaws are endearing, that your comfort is paramount. It is a lie designed to keep you docile, predictable, and easily manipulated, even by yourself. Therefore, the aspiring master of self must become immune to its allure. He must treat his own emotions with suspicion, dissecting them with the cold precision of a surgeon. He must ask, what is the hidden agenda of this feeling? What weakness does it exploit? What action does it seek to prevent? Every emotion, from anger to joy, must be interrogated. Anger, often a mask for fear or insecurity, must be channeled into calculated action, not blind rage. Joy, easily mistaken for contentment, must be tempered with the awareness that all things are fleeting. The prince understands that even positive emotions can be used against him, leading him to lower his guard, to become vulnerable to attack. Thus, he cultivates a state of detached awareness, observing his own emotional landscape with clinical objectivity. To build this fortress, one must be a master of deception, but the deception must be directed inward. You must learn to lie to your weaknesses, to trick them into surrendering their power. Fear, for example, can be outmaneuvered by a calculated display of courage, even if that courage is initially feigned. By acting as if you are unafraid, you gradually erode the foundations of fear itself. It is a process of psychological jujutsu, using the momentum of your own fear against it. Similarly, procrastination, often a symptom of fear or perfectionism, can be defeated by breaking down tasks into ridiculously small, manageable steps. This creates the illusion of progress, which in turn fuels motivation and overcomes inertia. The Machiavellian mind understands that the ends justify the means, especially when the end is the strengthening of one's own character. Therefore, he is willing to employ any tactic, any strategy, any deception necessary to achieve his goals. However, there is a crucial distinction to be made. The deceptions used against the self must ultimately lead to greater truth and self-awareness. They are not intended to create further illusions or to reinforce existing weaknesses. Rather, they are tools for dismantling those weaknesses and building a stronger, more resilient inner structure. The fortress is not built overnight. It is a continuous process of construction and demolition, of learning and unlearning, of adaptation and refinement. There will be setbacks, failures, and moments of profound doubt. The weak will succumb to these challenges, allowing their fortress to crumble around them. The strong, however, will use these experiences as opportunities for growth. They will analyze their mistakes, identify their weaknesses, and adjust their strategies accordingly. They will learn to embrace failure as a necessary component of success, understanding that every setback is a lesson in disguise. The Machiavellian mind is not afraid of failure, but he is terrified of stagnation. He knows that complacency is the enemy of progress, that the moment he stops learning and growing is the moment he begins to decline. Therefore, he constantly seeks out new challenges, new experiences, and new perspectives. He is a lifelong student of human nature, constantly observing, analyzing, and adapting to the ever-changing landscape of the world. He understands that the inner fortress is not a static structure, but a dynamic and evolving entity that must be constantly maintained and reinforced. It is a reflection of his own inner strength, his own resilience, and his own unwavering commitment to self-mastery. The true Machiavellian understands the importance of cultivating a network of allies, not for the purpose of manipulation or exploitation, but for the purpose of mutual support and growth. He recognizes that no one can build an inner fortress in isolation. We all need guidance, support, and encouragement from others. The key is to choose your allies wisely, seeking out those who share your values, your goals, and your commitment to self-improvement. Avoid those who are negative, cynical, or complacent, as they will only drag you down. Instead, surround yourself with people who inspire you, challenge you, and, 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 These are the true architects of your inner fortress. the ones who will help you to build it stronger and more resilient. They will provide you with valuable feedback, offer you alternative perspectives, and push you to reach your full potential. They will also be there to support you during times of difficulty, helping you to overcome setbacks and maintain your focus on your goals. The Machiavellian mind understands that collaboration is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. It is a recognition that we are all interconnected, that we all have something to offer, and that we can achieve far more together than we can alone. Consider also the element of strategic patience. Impatience is a crippling flaw. The drive for instant gratification leaves one vulnerable to impulsive decisions, rash actions, and ultimately, failure. Building an inner fortress requires a long-term perspective, a willingness to delay gratification, and the ability to endure periods of hardship and uncertainty. The Machiavellian mind understands that true power is not achieved through shortcuts or quick fixes, but through sustained effort, discipline, and unwavering focus. He is willing to sacrifice short-term gains for long-term benefits, knowing that the rewards of patience are far greater than the fleeting pleasures of instant gratification. He cultivates a sense of detachment from immediate outcomes, focusing instead on the process of building his inner fortress. He understands that progress is not always linear, that there will be periods of stagnation and regression, but he remains committed to his goals, trusting that his efforts will eventually bear fruit. He is like a farmer who patiently tends to his crops, knowing that it will take time for them to mature and yield a harvest. He understands that the seeds of success must be planted and nurtured over time, and that patience is the key to reaping the rewards. Finally, never underestimate the power of calculated ruthlessness, especially when directed inward. The weak cling to excuses, justifications, and comforting lies. The strong are willing to confront uncomfortable truths, to acknowledge their own shortcomings, and to take decisive action to eliminate their weaknesses. This requires a degree of ruthlessness, a willingness to sacrifice one's own ego, one's own comfort, and one's own illusions. The Machiavellian mind understands that self-improvement is not a gentle, passive process, but a brutal and relentless struggle. It requires a willingness to dismantle one's own character, to identify and eliminate any elements that are hindering progress. This may involve making difficult decisions, such as cutting ties with toxic relationships, abandoning unproductive habits, or confronting deeply ingrained beliefs. It may also involve enduring periods of intense discomfort, such as pushing oneself beyond one's comfort zone, facing one's fears, or embracing uncertainty. The key is to remain focused on the long-term goal of building an inner fortress, and to be willing to do whatever it takes to achieve that goal. The Machiavellian prince understands that true power is not about being liked or admired, but about achieving results. And sometimes, achieving results requires a degree of ruthlessness, both towards oneself and towards others. Consider the Roman Empire, a civilization that dominated the known world for centuries. Their military might was legendary, their engineering feats unparalleled, and their political acumen unmatched. But their success was not simply a matter of brute force or technological superiority. It was rooted in a deep understanding of human nature and a relentless focus on strategic advantage. The Roman legions were not just armies, they were meticulously organized fighting machines, trained to execute complex maneuvers with precision and discipline. Their leaders were not merely generals, they were strategists who understood the importance of logistics, intelligence, and psychological warfare. They knew that victory was not just about winning battles, but about controlling territory, securing resources, and maintaining order. And they were willing to do whatever it took to achieve those goals, even if it meant resorting to treachery, deception, or outright brutality. The Roman emperors understood that power was a zero-sum game, and that any weakness or vulnerability would be exploited by their enemies. They maintained their grip on power through a combination of force, diplomacy, and propaganda. They built roads and aqueducts to improve the lives of their citizens, but they also built fortifications and garrisons to suppress dissent. They offered bread and circuses to appease the masses, but they also maintained a network of spies and informers to monitor their activities. The Roman Empire was a complex and contradictory entity, a blend of idealism and cynicism, virtue and vice. But its success was undeniable, and its legacy continues to shape the world we live in today. But the seeds of their destruction were also sown within their success. Complacency, corruption, and internal strife gradually eroded the foundations of the empire, leaving it vulnerable to external threats. The lesson is clear. Even the most formidable fortress can be breached if its defenders become complacent or divided. The inner fortress is no different. It requires constant vigilance, unwavering discipline, and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. It requires a relentless focus on self-improvement and a refusal to tolerate weakness or mediocrity. It requires a deep understanding of one's own strengths and weaknesses, and a willingness to exploit the former while mitigating the latter. It requires a strategic mindset, a willingness to anticipate threats and opportunities, and a capacity to adapt to changing circumstances. And it requires a degree of ruthlessness, a willingness to sacrifice one's own comfort, one's own ego, and one's own illusions in the pursuit of a higher goal. The internal battles are often the most challenging, the most demanding, and the most revealing. The ability to wage war on one's own weaknesses and to emerge victorious is a sign of true strength and resilience. The alternative is to become a prisoner of one's own limitations, a victim of one's own fears, and a slave to one's own desires. The choice is yours. Build the fortress within or be consumed by the chaos without. The internal fortress isn't built from bricks and mortar. It's constructed from the steel of your will, the concrete of your discipline, and the reinforced understanding of your own psychology. Think of your mind as a landscape, constantly bombarded by external stimuli, internal doubts, and emotional storms. Without a fortress, these forces run rampant, eroding your resolve and leaving you vulnerable to manipulation and self-sabotage. The fortress provides structure, defense, and a command center from which you can observe, analyze, and strategically respond to the world around you. It's not about shutting out the world, but about controlling its influence. It's about cultivating a mental space where you can think clearly, make rational decisions, and act with purpose, regardless of the chaos swirling around you. This requires acknowledging the inherent biases that plague human cognition. Confirmation bias, for example, leads us to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs, while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. This creates echo chambers within our minds, reinforcing our prejudices and limiting our ability to see the world objectively. The fortress is equipped with tools to combat this bias, demanding rigorous self-examination, encouraging diverse perspectives, and fostering a commitment to intellectual honesty. Similarly, the availability heuristic leads us to overestimate the likelihood of events that are easily recalled, often due to their vividness or emotional impact. This can lead to irrational fears and poor decision-making. The fortress provides a framework for evaluating risks and probabilities objectively, relying on data and logic rather than gut feelings and emotional impulses. Another critical component of the inner fortress is emotional regulation. Emotions are powerful forces that can drive us to great heights or drag us down to the depths. The fortress isn't about suppressing emotions, but about understanding them, managing them, and channeling them in a constructive manner. This requires developing self-awareness, identifying triggers, and practicing techniques for managing stress and anxiety. Mindfulness, meditation, and cognitive behavioral therapy are all valuable tools for strengthening this aspect of the fortress. Furthermore, the fortress must be constantly maintained and upgraded. Just as a physical fortress requires repairs and renovations, the inner fortress requires ongoing self-reflection, learning, and adaptation. This means challenging your assumptions, questioning your beliefs, and seeking out new experiences that push you beyond your comfort zone. It means being willing to admit when you're wrong, to learn from your mistakes, and to continuously strive for self-improvement. The fortress is not a static structure. It's a dynamic and evolving system that reflects your growth and development as an individual. It's a lifelong project that requires dedication, discipline, and a willingness to confront the uncomfortable truths about yourself and the world around you. This also extends to understanding the power of framing. How information is presented dramatically impacts its reception. The fortress trains you to deconstruct narratives, identify underlying agendas, and reframe situations to your advantage. It's about seeing the chessboard from a higher perspective, anticipating your opponent's moves, and crafting strategies that lead to victory. Psychological warfare is not just about manipulating others. It's about understanding how manipulation works and defending yourself against it. It's about recognizing the tactics used by marketers, politicians, and even your own inner critic, and developing the mental resilience to resist their influence. The fortress is your shield against these insidious forces, protecting your mind from unwanted intrusions and preserving your autonomy. The construction of the inner fortress is a solitary endeavor. While you may seek guidance and support from others, ultimately, the responsibility for building and maintaining it rests solely on your shoulders. This requires a degree of self-reliance, a willingness to confront your demons alone, and a deep-seated belief in your own potential. It's a journey of self-discovery, a process of stripping away the layers of illusion and uncovering the core of your being. And it's a battle against your own weaknesses, a struggle to overcome your limitations and realize your full potential. The fortress is not a static structure. It is a dynamic, evolving entity that requires constant vigilance and maintenance. Complacency is its greatest enemy. Just as a physical fortress crumbles without repair, the inner fortress weakens without consistent reinforcement. This means continuously challenging your beliefs, seeking out new knowledge, and exposing yourself to uncomfortable truths. It means never becoming complacent in your self-assessment, always striving to identify and address your weaknesses. The fortress is a training ground for the mind, a space where you hone your mental skills and prepare for the battles ahead. It's a place where you practice discipline, develop resilience, and cultivate the mental fortitude necessary to overcome any obstacle. It is not a place of retreat from reality, but a base of operations from which you can engage with the world on your own terms. The strength of the fortress is directly proportional to the effort you invest in its construction. Every act of self-discipline, every moment of mental clarity, every victory over your own weaknesses strengthens its walls. Conversely, every act of indulgence, every lapse in judgment, every surrender to your fears weakens it. The choice is yours: to build a fortress that can withstand any assault, or to allow it to crumble into ruin, leaving you vulnerable to the forces that seek to control you. The true measure of the fortress is not its physical strength, but the mental resilience it provides. It's the ability to remain calm and focused in the face of chaos, to maintain your clarity of thought under pressure, to resist the temptation to succumb to fear or despair. It's the knowledge that, no matter what happens, you have the inner resources to overcome any challenge. The construction of the inner fortress is not a sprint, it is a marathon. It requires patience, persistence, and an unwavering commitment to self-improvement. There will be setbacks along the way, moments of doubt and discouragement, but these are merely tests of your resolve. The true warrior rises after each fall, stronger and more determined than before. The fortress is not just about defending yourself against external threats. It's also about protecting yourself from your own destructive tendencies. It's about learning to control your emotions, to manage your impulses, and to channel your energy in productive directions. It's about becoming the master of your own mind, rather than a slave to your desires. The fortress is a sanctuary, a place where you can find peace and solitude amidst the turmoil of the world. It's a place where you can reconnect with your inner self, reflect on your experiences, and recharge your batteries. But it is not a place of escape, it is a place of preparation. From the sanctuary of your mind, you can analyze and understand what is happening and strategize for your next steps. It provides an escape, a sanctuary to prepare. The knowledge gained from building the inner fortress is a powerful weapon. It gives you the ability to see the world with greater clarity, to understand the motivations of others, and to anticipate their actions. It allows you to make informed decisions, to avoid unnecessary risks, and to seize opportunities that others miss. This knowledge is a form of power, but it must be wielded responsibly. The purpose of the fortress is not to dominate others, but to protect yourself and to live your life on your own terms. By knowing yourself and others, you can navigate the world with greater confidence and integrity. The ultimate goal of the inner fortress is not simply to survive, but to thrive. It's about creating a life of purpose, meaning, and fulfillment. It's about becoming the best version of yourself and using your unique talents and abilities to make a positive impact on the world. The fortress is the foundation upon which you build your life, the source of your strength, and the key to your success.